What's going on, Kinfo? Welcome back. Key to the City Podcast. You know who it is. It's your country cousin, Yoni. And we are back with episode 25, which I really think I'm going to change to episode 28 because I've been rolling. Y'all don't need to know about that. But anyway, thanks for everybody that's been supporting the podcast, following, liking, sharing, whatever you've been doing, spreading by word of mouth. I appreciate it, man. You didn't have to do it, but you did. And we're going to continue to provide you with quality content and quality guests. I want to thank my last few guests that I had. We had a bunch of artists in here. We had Taliban Vinci. We had 808 the Bass, who's overcome a muscle disease, man, and bounced back. He's at full strength. We had Lee Vance, Northside Lee, man, the owner of Josephine's in Jackson, Mississippi. They're doing their thing, cooking up. And D.O.N.O. Vegas, one of the hottest artists in the street right now. So just like with them, today's guest is no different. Quality content, quality guest, and I'm proud and honored to have this queen on the platform with me. I've been knowing her for a while, and I just and she is a transitional business professional speaker, as well as the founder and CEO of In Charge Career Consultant LLC and Auxitions LLC, both doubly minority owned, based out of Dallas, Texas. That's right. She's doing her thing down there with them Cowboys. Her company's mission is to provoke, empower, and educate women to take charge of their ambitions as corporate leaders and entrepreneurs, which we need more of. Our queens are growing. That's why some of you dudes can't find a woman because they passing you up. You need to step the game up. Because they own it, I swear. But her journey includes experience as a principal staffing consultant, corporate talent acquisition advisor, and human capital strategist to hundreds of business managers and executives of some of the most well-known, privately owned, and publicly held corporations. So she out here doing her thing. We're gonna find out more about her background. I want to pick her brain about Black women in corporate America today. We may even speak about Miss Breonna Taylor a little bit. And just how our Black women are treated overall. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the city, Miss Meridith Ward. What's going on, Queen?
Hey, Ken. How you doing? Thank you for inviting me onto your show. You know I'm super excited.
I'm glad to have you, man. It kind of feels like life coming full circle almost for me. Just to see that the growth that you had, which I'm not surprised because you always been a very straightforward and headstrong young lady. So I love to see you shining. I love to see you glowing. How your day been?
My day has been amazing. It has been good so far. I know people are just like, it's only 10 o'clock. I wake up at about 5 or 6 every day. So far, it's been pretty good. It's been calm. I've been able to get everything in order. My dog is right on my side right now. Want me to pick him up.
So what's your dog name?
Cujo.
What up, Cujo? Probably wouldn't hurt nothing. So it's been a minute since we caught up. I don't think I've seen you since high school. So I kind of want to catch up with your journey. Where'd you go to school? Where'd you start your professional background? You don't necessarily have to list a name or corporation, but just give me a little insight. What's been going on with you since then?
Well, I'll just start here. For those of you who don't know, Keone and I, we met at Terry High School. And when you all met me, believe it or not, I was just now transferring to the district. So I grew up in Jackson, over in the Queens, off Flag Chapel and Northside Drive.
Never knew
when
that.
I came to Terry, I was a new girl on the block. Little did I know that I had most of the Black community there, because I think the school is all Black now. And at the time, we were 20% Black, but most of the Black community there was related to me. And so I was like, I got a school full of cousins here and everybody. I enjoyed it, but I was just transferring into that district. Now, as far as my growth in my career, that started off at a company called The Limited Brands, which is an umbrella, or used to be an umbrella company for Victoria's Secret, The Limited, I think White Barn Candle Company. I started there several years ago while I was still at university, which was at Jackson State. and they introduced me into the human resource world. And ever since then, I've been hooked. I've been stuck on it. I got a chance to intern with them, and before I left, they offered me a full-time position, but with the caveat, they said, well, if you take this position, you have to move to Ohio. So I wasn't going to move to Ohio.
Right.
I said, I'll take my chances in Texas. And so I ended up here in Texas, and I've been here now a little over 13 years. I graduated university a long time ago, like way longer than that, but I stuck with that company for a while, either while I was in school and after graduating, and then I finally moved here. And this is where my career actually took off. I stayed in staffing, and then I went to corporate recruiting. I was a human strategist while in HR. I worked with a lot of senior directors and leaders from top organizations throughout the US and also internationally. I got experience traveling with my organizations while working with them. And then eventually I got laid off. And so that is what changed my mindset about staying in corporate America and keeping a corporate job. I loved work that I do.
Right.
I loved it then. I love it now. But when you get laid off all of a sudden because of a downturn or because you're completing a contract, it changes your mind about things. And so when I went through that experience, I went ahead and went back into corporate America, but I was determined at that time when I went into corporate America that I was going to leave. I knew that in taking that next job, I was like, I'm only going to be here for 6 months. I'm only going to be here a year. Unfortunately, I ended up staying 3 years longer than I expected, but it was a good 3 years because I think I needed that grounding. And so in that time frame, it allowed me to build up my finances. It allowed me to build up my community or core relationships. It allowed me to really make a strategic plan on how to properly exit the corporate world. But at the same time, I became burned out. I became frustrated. I became very passive about my own business because I was then focusing on what they wanted me to do and all of their goals and helping them build out their dream and not mine. And so long story short, that's what helped me to pivot into entrepreneurship. That's what helped me to start my staffing company. In fact, within the first quarter of leaving and going full time as an entrepreneur, I actually left that company with a client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned being laid off, because I'm sure a lot of us have experienced situations like that. It's just the idea to me of somebody literally controlling your destiny, having your livelihood in their hands, and they can cut you off at any time. So I understand that mindset. I think I'm right there where you are mentally, as far as our thought process and trying to escape that hold that corporate America has on them. So the laid off, that changed your mindset. You had a goal with what you wanted to do, and you left the company with a client. So while you were with the company, were you able to build up like a book of business that people you could reach out to, that that you wouldn't completely be going out there, uh, unassisted, where you didn't have any idea who you're gonna reach out to first? So how did that help you along the way in establishing those relationships?
Well, as a corporate employee, I had already built up my core relationships. And when I refer to core relationships, those are I had an advocate, I had a mentor, I had a coach, and I also had developed relationship with someone who I consider to be somewhat of an adversary, because that person used to keep me on my toes because they were very critical of my work. And so with them being so critical, I was able to identify shortcomings or where I was blind in certain areas and make the adjustment necessary before putting things out or projects out before the board leaders or my boss. So I'd already built those core relationships, but after that, I started having to think of ways to, okay, well, how am I going to go into business? I started to identify potential partners, people who could come in and actually help me do the staffing. I started to identify out of the leaders that I was working with who has other businesses outside of this company. And lo and behold, at least 5 of them have other businesses. And 2 of them have been willing to work with me outside of it. Now, I did not sign any kind of non-compete with that company. And so I was good and free to go. But at the same time, I had to do everything under the radar. I couldn't allow them to understand or know that I had another company working in the background already, because many times, even though these corporations these days say, oh, well, we want you to be entrepreneurial, we want you to go after your own dreams because we think it'll add to it, they don't really want you to take your eye off the ball of what they're really doing.
Facts.
So
Facts.
yes, I left with a community. I left with a good network of potential clients, of people who could help me prospect, people who could help me build. And I was good to go. Like I said, within that first quarter, my first client coming out of the gate was one of the leaders that I had actually been serving as a corporate person.
See, I like that you already had calculated steps prepared, because a lot of people that want to go in business, they'll just jump out there with the passion to do it, not knowing that you literally need a blueprint and a guide to follow to reach success. And I'm glad you mentioned having a mentor and an advocate. I don't think I've ever had that in my professional career. Like, how do you go about finding one? And what's the benefit of having those people in your corner?
That's a really good question. It's one that I get a lot. It's actually one of the main things that I speak on when I'm doing virtual and live workshops, or the workshops that are face to face, is developing those relationships. Advocacy is very important, and mentorship. A lot of people think that your advocate is your mentor. It's not the same. It can be, but a mentor is more so of somebody who has actually been where you're trying to be, either in your corporate career or in your business that you are forming for yourself. Maybe they have already become the millionaire that you want to become, or maybe they have already been out there for several years before yourself. They're doing or taking the journey that you want to take. And so you seek that person out. As far as an advocate, whether it is in corporate or whether it is in entrepreneurship, this is a person who can speak up for you when you are not in the room. They are a person who has a certain level of influence that you do not have. They're a person who can get you into rooms that you may not have business being in, or you may not actually be able to get into yourself. And so having the advocate was something of importance to me, because anytime, being an HR professional, anytime we go to make a decision or put things into place, we have to get the buy-in from leadership. And part of that buy-in is really having them to trust you and having them to believe in the vision that you set forth. Another thing that an advocate does, especially if you are in the corporate world, is if you are trying to be promoted, if you're trying to get a raise, I know that's a really important one for both men and women, then that advocate is the person who can go into the room and say, hey, Keone has been doing a good job for this last quarter, or he has really brought in the results, or they can spotlight you in ways that you may not be able to. They can bring recognition to your work in ways that you will not be able to. And so that is the point of having an advocate. But another thing about an advocate is the fact that it works two ways. You are seeking the advocate, but we also have to be able to advocate for ourselves. We cannot be ambivalent about our businesses or about our careers. We have to actually do everything with intention. And so the point of it is, especially when it comes to women, when we're trying to lift that glass ceiling off of ourselves, we have to make sure that we're putting ourselves out there. We have to make sure that we are sounding the alarm and ringing or tooting our own horn in a way. And speaking up for things that we believe that we deserve, that we believe are right. And there's a way to go about doing it instead of having to force the conversation.
Which is a great segue to my next question. Speaking up, voicing your opinions to leadership or to whoever in corporate world. According to Catalyst 2018 report, 58% of Black women reported being highly on guard in corporate America in the workplace. Do you believe that it's more difficult for Black women to express themselves without facing stereotypical labels, the angry Black woman and, all that nonsense?
In terms of being able to express ourselves, and this is just based off of personal experience and experience that I have witnessed of others, yes, certainly. And that is largely due to the fact that many of us actually live in the bubble or on the line of double consciousness. And that means that there is always a pressure to hide our authentic selves. And rather than our unique values being celebrated, many of us believe or feel or have actually experienced the weight of having that value shunned in one way or another. Just take into account just recently here in 2020, the Crown Act was just passed in certain areas, not all over the US. Are you familiar with the Crown Act?
No, educate me.
So the Crown Act is basically allowing women to wear their natural hair. And as you know, under this is all natural. You know, I got a little natural a tiny fro going on. But when I was in corporate, I was natural. I wore my hair out natural. But I have been what is called a naturalista for, I want to say, the past at least 8 years. I've only been in my business 5 years. I've been full time now 2 years, maybe a little over that. I want to say, to be safe, 2 years. But in that time frame, I went through the transition of learning how to bring my truthful, authentic self into the workplace. And one of the ways that I tested the boundaries and did that was by allowing myself to wear my natural hair. And at the time, I had a big old fro, and my fro stands up. It's not floppy and curly. You know, it's coils. So the conversation that you have with yourself with that alone as a Black woman coming into the workspace is demonstrative of how you go through the corporate life. Because I really wondered before I made that, it really took me a while. I wondered to myself, how are they going to receive it? You know, if are they going to fire me? Am I going to be able to take an interview with this hair? You know, how am I going to be perceived? Am I going to be too Black for them when I walk through the door? You know, am I making a mistake? Like literally walking into the doors of the office that day, I was sweating bullets because I didn't know how I was going to be perceived. But then when I walked in, the team that I was working for at the time, they received it quite well. There were a couple of people who had questions. There were people who were just like, "Oh my God, it's beautiful. It's amazing. Oh my God, your hair." Because at the time I was wearing the long weaves. And when I wore my hair, I had it blown out straight. And so with that alone, yes, we oftentimes do face a barrier with being able to express our true selves because of how we've always been deemed. You know, a lot of us are deemed as the angry Black woman when we get to the point of we want to express our thoughts around things that we don't agree with. You know, the tone of our voice, some of us, I don't have a deeper tone voice, but many of us do have a deeper tone voice. And the way that we speak and express our opinions with that tone of voice, that can be deemed as angry or aggressive. And so I think it's a real issue, but I think we're starting to make some type of headway. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, we definitely do. But man, I love a strong Black woman, powerful Black woman. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna put her foot down. But I know some guys, and even Black men, may be intimidated by that. But I don't see how. But it is what it is. But
I'm not even gonna comment on that. You're not pulling me to that rabbit hole right now.
Cause I was thinking about this off the subject, but I was thinking about a post you had made the other day, and I said somebody done pissed her off.
What? That could be it.
Just go through your past posts, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, let's continue to talk about Black women leadership in the workplace. Not too long ago, Goldman Sachs they announced that they would not help the U.S. or any European companies go public unless they kind of diversify like their board of directors. And they basically forced them to do that within 2020 and 2021, which I thought was a good idea. Do you think more companies need to do this or follow this trend in order to mitigate the barriers that prevent individuals of diversity from entering the C-suite executives?
My answer to that is yes, certainly. That is something that should have been addressed a long time ago.
Long time ago, yeah.
But the question that I would pose is, why is it taking so long when you knew, if you knew that this was an issue? And I would think that the answer is yes, they knew. And number two, why is the directive on that initiative so vague? If you listen to what the leader has said about, you know, the directive, it is allowing or pushing, basically forcing these companies to diversify their boards by either adding a woman and or a person of color. But what that doesn't mean that Black women and Black men are going to all of a sudden be given a light. When you say person of color, that can mean anyone.
Anybody,
so that doesn't mean that the board is going to be automatically diversified with Black, Indian, white, Asian, Hispanic. It could mean anything. It doesn't automatically mean that they're going to bring in a woman of color. It could be a man of color. And so I believe that it doesn't need to be so vague. I think that they need to go company by company or case by case and figure out who and what they need on those boards.
Right.
More so, there are several of opportunities for people of color to join or be a part of boards. Being a board member is extremely important. It will give us the chance to change the narrative in a colossal way. And the thing about that is we have to be the ones to stick to bringing our true selves into that room or into the rooms that we're in. And also using our voices to speak up on things that we don't agree with. I've been a part of a major board, and they actually had the drive or have to drive the initiative of diversifying their boards. I was one of those people that they hired on. And Keone, I was for a while only the second Black woman on the board. And then there was a third Black woman. I don't recall there ever being a Black man ever brought into the situation. But in that discussion or in that room, I always felt as if I was the only person being real about my thoughts when it came to certain programs they were putting on, or, I was just being my authentic self. Whereas you still get people who are very much so about the business in the parking lot, but when they step in those doors, it turns off. And so we can't afford, if you're going to be a part of the board, if you're going to take up that space, we as Black people in the Black community cannot, in my belief, we can't afford for you to be a parking lot, to only be Black in the parking lot.
Right. Sometimes I wonder though, how effective is it? It seems like they're forcing companies to put these people in position because of everything else being whitewashed. But is it really a productive situation if you're forcing somebody to do something that they may not actually want to do? It seems kind of like they're not being authentic to me. They're just trying to meet a quota, trying to satisfy, because I'm sure their shareholders don't give a damn.
Here's the thing with that, and here are my thoughts on that. That's a really good question also. Yes, I think it is a force. I think it's necessary because that's an opportunity for us to educate. I don't think that we should be doing all of the educating. It has to go both ways, but it's an opportunity for us to educate. And again, it's an opportunity for us to change the narrative and to use our voices to speak up and to change the way that they think and the way that we are perceived. But we have to be authentic in that space. Right now, it's just like, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement that all the companies have been posting, hashtag Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
I think that's forced. I don't think it's for every company, but I think for a lot of these companies out here, especially if your entire board is white, or you don't have any women, or you don't have any, diversity at all within your company or on your board, then yes, it's forced, because it's something to say, oh, well, we're not going to miss out on the marketing. Okay.
Right.
Just think about it. We are an entire movement when it comes to the economy, us as a Black people. And so, yes, they're going to target us. So in these initiatives, like right now, I spoke with a representative at a major company. He's an older white gentleman, and his thing was, we're doing this diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. And, they're working from home. They're all on the Zoom calls together. And the move that they're making right now is to have them discuss their experience with racism. And well, the conversations are being forced. And when you force a conversation like that, of course, you're going to get canned answers.
Right.
People are going, especially in a setting like that, people are going to tell you what they believe you want to hear and what they believe is going to put them in the best light. And so you have to go a step further with that initiative, whatever that is. I don't know what's going to be for this major company, but I know over the years, DE&I has been something of top of mind, because you've got companies who have added diversity groups, which are groups that are centered around sexuality and gender and race and age and it's just, those are culture groups that anybody can join to exchange ideas, share their views or their thoughts on different things. It's a way to educate everybody within the building. But this thing of hashtag Black Lives Matter for every corporation out there and having them to have the conversation, it's still a good thing. It's still a good foundation. It's just you have to get past the canned answers because
Right.
think about it. No one wants to be fired from their job because
Right.
someone will think that they're a racist.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. Key to the City podcast. We got the Queen Meridith Ward with us. And something just popped in my mind. It's a good question for you. Recently, I want to know your thoughts on this. Recently, the CEO of Wells Fargo came under fire with his comments about the talent pool for Black executives being limited, which is why
I
there's
saw
so
that.
few numbers, huh?
I saw that, miss.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish your
like,
question so I can fully answer you.
Get your head together.
I'm getting it together. What was your question? I cut you off.
I just wanted to know your thoughts on his comment. Like, I thought it was total BS. Like, where are you looking for the talent?
You asked the right question. Where are you looking for the talent and who's doing the search on it? And how diverse is your company already?
Right.
So I think that was a crock, to say the least. And I think the person who rang the alarm on that, they should have spoken up about it. I'm glad that they did because there is no limit to Black talent out there, male or female. We are women, especially the Black women, and I'm not downing my Black men, but Black women, we are the most educated pool of women out there.
Agreed.
We have the experience. The Black men have the experience. We're talented. We're creative. We know how to drive initiatives. We're great at leading teams. There's a lot out there that can be said for Black people who are coming to the forefront with our talents in these organizations. That's why I also push for full-time entrepreneurship so much. You need to work where and do things where your talents are appreciated.
Mm-hmm. And just a few more questions. Speaking on entrepreneurship and helping women or anybody transition from the corporate world to entrepreneurship, what are some of the unnecessary pitfalls that they can avoid? Even if it's something that you experienced during your personal journey, like what are some things that they don't necessarily have to bump their heads? They can learn from you.
Here are the thing about entrepreneurship, and I think it's super important. Making sure that you engage in partnerships sooner rather than later. That was my mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of In Charge Career Consulting and the point of me being your career and startup business strategist is to not only teach you through the mistakes that I've witnessed of others, but through my own mistakes from both sides of the hiring desk, meaning my mistakes in the corporate world and my mistakes that I've made as an entrepreneur. But make sure that you seek out, identify, and form solid partnerships, whether that is through affiliate partners, an equity partnership, whether that is through joint venture partnerships, developing a board. Do that at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Rather than waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years into your business. Why? Because if you do an equity partner, bringing in somebody middle ways through and all of this work you've done, what if the following month you make $1 million? That equity partner is going to take a large percentage of that, okay? Mm-hmm. Of that, and then they haven't done the work to get there. But if you start in the beginning and you both are exchanging ideas, it'll be a lot easier. You also have a range of perspective there rather than having to figure everything out on your own. Mm-hmm. Build a board of people who are strong in the areas where you have weaknesses. That could be marketing, that could be sales, that could be prospecting, that could be anything. That could be writing up your contracts. Bring in those team of people on your board who can advise you and who help you work those things out. Another thing that we often skip over is making sure that we are being authentic in our business. Another issue I had because I had spent so long. I spent over 17 years as an HR representative in the corporate world. And so there was a lot of me that I was hiding. Yes, I got to the point where I was wearing my natural hair out, but it took a lot for me to do that little bit. It took a lot out of me to do that. And when I did it, I was free. That's not to say that I have to be natural all the time. I wear weaves, I wear braids, I wear my coils out, but we need to always practice, go ahead and being your authentic and true self in your business. People are attracted to that. People are just naturally drawn to it. And what a shame it would be for you to get all the way to where you want to be in your business. You become a billionaire, you become super successful, and you're not able to be who you are in your business.
That
like
was
being a prisoner in your own home.
Right. No, we can't have that. That's good advice. And last point on the corporate world, the Trump administration, and I think it's only applying to the public sector at this time, but eradicating diversity training, and I think trainings that include prevention of sexual harassment, discrimination.
You see my face.
What is going on? Like, I just want to know your brief thoughts around that. Like, I know you can't change somebody's heart, but you need things in place that can ensure that people are getting a fair shake of the stick. Like, come on, what's your thoughts?
I think that goes back to the question about the diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in this case, and I typically don't like to give the person in the White House any light, but in this case, I will speak on that what he said. I believe it would do more harm than good to the economy, the American economy, than anything. Why? Because of our diversity we have right now. Why? Because of the mindset we have right now. This is the melting pot. You can't change that. And like you said, you can't change the heart of a person, but you can just like Goldman Sachs is doing. Is that the company? Yeah. They are forcing these large corporations to level up with diversity. But like I said, the diversity and inclusion initiative has a very long way to go. You have to get beyond the fold of people just doing it because you asked them to do it. You have to get into their psyche and really make them think about what it means to be in a certain group or have certain privileges. Right. I hope that makes sense. But that's really all I can add to that. I think it's possible. Of course, he's the president of the United States, but at the same time, it would do more harm than good to this country. Yeah.
And he's an expert in doing harm. Yeah. I want to close out on a personal note. I've been seeing a lot lately. You know, you have your situations like, for example, the Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez situation. So from that, you see a lot of posts and people speaking out that Black women feel unprotected, especially by the Black men that should be the primary ones protecting them. I want to know how you feel about that personally. Do you agree with that sentiment? And why is that? And what can we do to kind of correct that? Sometimes I feel like people take situations that a celebrity is involved in and kind of do a general blanket statement over the entire gender of Black men. All us not like that.
I realize not all are like that. I was raised by a very present and excellent Black father. I have amazing Black brothers, Black uncles. The men in my family, I applaud them because I respect them so much for the position, the roles that they have played in my life and the lives of many others throughout my family, everyone within my family. But when it comes to being a Black woman navigating the world, you do, in my opinion, based off my experience also, you do run into Black men who have no respect, who will call you out of your name, who will just, I've had, I had a Black man one time in conversation. I was sitting at a restaurant and I was waiting on a friend, and he turned around and he spoke to me. I spoke back. That's what I do as a person. And in his speaking back, I guess he thought that there was some type of flirtation or something going on. And his response was, "Oh, I don't date Black women."
What?
And unfortunately, that was my first year here in Texas. Yeah. So I've experienced little aggressions like that. I've heard Black men say that they don't date Black women, they won't deal with Black women, or, you have Black men who date outside of their race, and I have absolutely no problem with that at all. Right. But my thing is, if you date outside of your race, don't do it because you hate your community. Don't do it because you have something against a Black woman who may have hurt you, or you have something against your mother. Do it because you truly want to. But yeah, I do believe that there are some keyword some Black men out there who really, really make you feel unprotected around them, that are very disrespectful. They don't value. There's some men that don't value women. And how I grew up and how I was raised by Black men was a man will treat you how you act, but at the same time, if he's a gentleman, he's going to treat you as a lady no matter what.
No matter what, yeah.
So I've run into some strange situations with different people that I don't know personally and that I do know personally, who are just like against Black women and would try to do harm to Black women. I mean, honestly, but I can't say that that's all Black men. I really honestly cannot, because I come from good Black men. I know good Black men. I'm friends with good Black men, yourself.
Right.
So I think it's a double-edged sword, but I definitely believe that our Black men need to, the ones who do care, there's a space, an opportunity there for you to step up and start to educate, especially the younger generation, because the ones that are out there and they are younger and older, they learned it from somewhere. They learned it from the men who are in their communities and the men who are out there teaching them. It's just like the value of marriage in our community, I think is different than any other community. I'm not married, but in my thoughts about that, I think that our men value marriage differently than other groups of men.
In a good way or bad way? Good way or bad way? Like, I'm trying to see what you...
I don't know if it's good or bad, but I will say that we tend to be single longer for different reasons, but for a lot of it is just kind of like, we can't marry ourselves. And so out there in the dating pool, we tend to be single longer a lot of the times because you're running into men who are still out playing like as if they're children, or not interested in the concept of marriage, or they have never witnessed a marriage before. Now, that has nothing, in my opinion, to do with, coming from a single family or 2-parent household. It is the opinion of what you've been influenced by.
Well, that would be my answer right there. My explanation, exactly what you're influenced by. I don't believe in the excuse of, well, man, I ain't had no example when I was coming up with her, because I was raised by a single Black mother, and I love my family. I want to be present in my children's lives. I want to be somebody that my wife can rely on. So I think it's something that, now I do think you can be, like you say, influenced by a situation. If you grew up around guys that don't value women and things like that, it could naturally rub off on you. And some people don't shake that and become their own person, become their own man. They just continue to follow what they see. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, but I believe that the best thing God created was the Black woman, man. Like, for real, like them young boys say, no cap. Because, man, you're strong, reliable. You're going to make it with or without us. You hold us down. That's why I don't understand how people can just shit on the Black woman the way they do. I think it's the type of woman they're choosing, regardless of which race that is. The type of woman you choosing has a lot to do with why you think the way you think. Because most of the women I've dated have been quality women, classy women, educated, ambitious. So, I mean.
And look, it goes both ways, because you have women out there who are not ready to settle, who don't want to settle, who may not be so great for the person that they're dating. I'm not putting the onus just on the Black man. It's on the Black woman as well. But I'm giving you my thought as a Black woman. Now I know some really excellent guys, and we're not gonna go into my little situation, but But people ask me, why are you single? It's because if you're not ready, you're not ready. But at the same time, it's a desire. But for me, I have to be with the right person at the right time. And because of my mindset or my mentality around building together rather than just being in a relationship, I have to have someone who understands that. I want
Mm.
somebody to build with, not just jump into a marriage just because we talking about the love thing, but build with you, grow with you. You pour into me and I'll
Oh.
pour into you.
Mm. And you don't hear a lot of that these days. I'm so glad you say that. So you're definitely the prize, and he out there waiting for you, looking for you. He just ain't came across you yet.
We don't know.
Uh, Meridith Ward, I thank you so much, Queen, for joining us. We've been talking a minute. I ain't no time got away from us like that. I know you're a busy woman, and but I just want to ask one last question on a personal side, and it's still going back to the black woman, but just black people in general. Will we ever see justice in our lifetime? Will we ever see our race appreciated and valued uh, as something other than a second-class citizen? I say that in reference to Breonna Taylor, like uh, from George Floyd to Ahmaud Arbery to Breonna Taylor to the names are countless. Like there's always it seems like they can trade our life for a check, and we should be straight with that. But I just want to
Mm,
know how you feel about pretty much. I know there's still some things that are in the air with the case, but pretty much no one being held accountable for her death. And it's the second time officers have come into the home of someone, the wrong person, and killed them. And
mm.
we still can't get justice behind that. So, how does that make you feel as a black woman in America?
How does it make me feel? Let me answer your first question. Will we ever be valued? No one is going to value us like us.
Mm,
No one is going to value their home, your home, like you.
hmm.
And so we have to value ourselves and work on how we value ourselves before we can really,
Especially,
really, really be so concerned about everybody else valuing us.
right.
Um, as far as the way I feel about those cases, they're unfortunate. They should have never occurred.
Mhm.
Um, when Breonna Taylor's mom said after the grand jury decision came down, even in her speech when she was crying and she was trying to express herself, and she's like, I don't want to come off as an angry black woman, but I am. She has every right to be.
Right, right.
What woman in the world has to think about that though?
Hmm.
Um, I believe that justice should and is going to be served on her case. And in the case of the many others that have lost their lives, whether they came into the home shooting without, because we have the castle rights. So it should have never occurred.
Right, right, right.
But I believe that in all of these cases that God will prevail.
Yeah, I believe the same. He will rise. Um, I just continue to pray for y'all. I pray for us and just the world,
Mhm.
you know. Well, we thank you, Queen. How can my kin folks, my audience, follow you, reach out, find more, become a client, all that good stuff?
Well, first, I want to say thank you for inviting me on. This is an excellent platform for those of us who are emerging entrepreneurs and those of us who are in the corporate world. Your interviews are getting better and better by the day. So I thank you for that, for offering this, and thank you for inviting me on. But I just want to let everybody know that here soon, before the end of the year, I will be offering automated leadership coaching and development courses, and I focus on 5 components that are most critical in the soft skills department for helping us to elevate into the level of influence and authority that we're looking for as we rise through the ranks of corporate leadership. And it also is very important for those of us who are entrepreneurs if we plan on growing and scaling our companies. Those are influence, emotional intelligence, and awareness, the ability to negotiate not only our salary, but our business deals terms. It is conflict resolution, and my favorite, which is consulting. And so be on the lookout for that. I'll offer those in an automated form. Right now, I do provide those courses, but they're in a one-on-one setting. And so I'm trying to grow and expand myself. But outside of that, if you want to get in contact with me, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, or via email. My email address is info@INC Career Consulting. Info@INC Career Consulting. And it's at In Charge Career Consulting on Instagram. I can be found on Facebook, or you can find me on LinkedIn. In Charge Career Consulting.
There it is. Y'all go follow, support. Hey, and tell me about She's in Charge.
So I forgot about the YouTube channel.
Come on now.
She Is in Charge is new. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been trying to figure out how to get the message out there and how to also highlight other women and possibly other men. But the tagline of my business is to provoke, empower, and educate. And the provoking piece is to provoke you to take action in your career and business. The empowerment piece is to help me shine light on other entrepreneurs and leaders in the corporate world, and to also educate you through my experiences and on both sides of the hiring desk. And so with In Charge, She Is in Charge on the YouTube channel, it allows women to come together to share our thoughts, our perspective, our experiences on what it is to be a corporate leader and what it is to be an entrepreneur. It's also a resource for free strategies and tools and other information on there that you can utilize. I just posted a video on there, and so I'm hopefully that it will grow to millions and billions of people following. But yes, you can follow She Is in Charge on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe today. I have many more interviews coming. I will also be on there just offering you advice about how to move through the corporate world and also how to move through the entrepreneurial world as well.
There it is. Y'all check it out. Girl, you want it. That's what I'm talking about. I appreciate you coming on Key to the City podcast. We had excellent conversation today, man. Y'all go follow this queen, man. See what she got going on. She definitely doing her thing, man. And she's a perfect role model for young women of all ages. So proud of her. And we're going to continue to support you. We love you here at Key to the City. Anything you need from me, you just a phone call, text, email away. And let's continue to grow together. And just keep doing your thing. Everybody go out there, like, support, share, comment, and lift her up. We got to lift each other up. But yeah, she is the Queen Meridith Ward. I am your host, your kinfolk. Yoni, this is Key to the City podcast. We out. Peace and blessing. One.